It is now 7:09 p.m. This is Iowa City, and this is the Ad Hoc Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Iowa City. We'll call the meeting to order right now, and before we proceed, we would want a reading that we usually do on land acknowledgement from Commissioner Wangoi.
And we have to do roll call?
Made a roll call.
I can note it in the notes, and everybody, you can see who's present from the video and from the Zoom, so we'll make things easier tonight for folks.
Thank you.
Land acknowledgement. We meet today in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of Native American nations to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within the homelands of the Iowa, Meskwaki, and Sauk. And because history is complex and time goes far back beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other indigenous peoples here. The history of broken treaties and forced removal that dispossessed indigenous peoples of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the city, the Iowa City community, to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work toward equity, restoration, and reparations.
Thank you. We'll now go to agenda number 3, which is public comment. So if there's any person out there online or in presence, this should be a 5-minute maximum for each speaker. Yes. Please state your name and where you're coming from.
Hi, Annie Tucker, and I live at 91 Prairie Hill Lane, Iowa City. And I didn't come prepared to speak, but I want to check in. At your last meeting, I was out of town, and I was, one of the things I was doing was meeting with my closest age cousin, and he lives in the Bay Area. And he told me about the truth and reconciliation processes that are going on in California. So I just want to share the parts that I came away knowing that I can't tell you everything that they're doing and how they're doing it. This is what I thought I heard him say. He actually was invited to go to, they have different truth and reconciliation commissions for different communities. So there's an indigenous commission. There's an African American commission. They're meeting with folks separately with those communities. One of the things, and you can read and find out far more than I'm bringing. The African American group, there was something within the commission where they had academics and activists and maybe community members. It would be worth just seeing. Interesting that they had selections like that. And they are working on reparation proposals for the state for African Americans. Okay, and they just continue to work out what that could look like and who would qualify and all that. So that's interesting. I mean, I think I was real interested to hear what else is happening in different parts of the country. The part with the indigenous commission, the commissioner is a Native woman, and she had a meeting where there were 40 people in a talking circle. And she said something like, you're going to be given an opportunity to speak, but if there's something you don't want to have be public, come to me afterwards or at another time and tell me, because this will be recorded. So I know that kind of the tension between privacy but also being heard, we're concerned about that here too. And so that was her language for it. So I just wanted to offer those images of just a little bit of what's going on in California. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for that wealth of information and engagement. We will seek more information from you to help us improve what we are working on in here. Thank you. We now go to agenda number 4, which is approval of the minutes from September meeting, September 5th, 2024. And if there is any objection, I would want us to vote on whether to approve or not. But if there is any objection, let's see that. Anybody who objects to approval of the minutes, please state.
Does somebody want to move?
I move to approve.
Okay, second. Is there?
Seconded.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes from September 19th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone choosing not to vote? Okay, motion carries.
All right. Is there any public comment from the previous agenda that was on? I'm sorry here. I think we'll move ahead. We don't need the public comments now. I think we are done with that. But if there is anybody personal, at any time, please chip in. We'll go to agenda number 5. Any motion to move on to agenda number 5?
That's fine. The presenters can come forward.
Okay.
Yep.
You are welcome to come.
This up a little bit. Will I be able to control slides from here?
Yes, you
Okay.
will. Yep.
Wonderful.
Just keep it muted because it's running the microphone through my unit.
Okay.
So just don't unmute it. And after Jamie's done presenting, then I'll take it off of the view that everybody's seeing right now.
Great. Thank you. Well, hello. Good evening. I am Jamie Gade, and I'm with Johnson County Public Health, and I'm going to introduce Haley Wilson here, and she's also with Johnson County Public Health. You'll hear from her at the end about current initiatives right now that we're doing. So I'll just say I was excited to get Amos's invitation to speak today. We do collect a lot of data, and we do a lot of community outreach to get that data as representative as possible. So excited to present housing data specific today for your commission. But this is our team, so it's a team of 5. I'm just trying to put faces to names here, but you might see these folks out in the community in future iterations of surveys or community engagement work. I'll just quickly overview our framework. So we use, and actually why we do this process too, so by Iowa code, we are required to do a health assessment of our community, but we're also really interested as a health department to see how our community is doing so we can have strategic initiatives so that we can fill those gaps and those barriers too that folks are seeing. So we do use this Mobilizing for Action through Planning and Partnerships framework. This was developed in 2001 by CDC and then National Association of County and City Health Officials. And so there are 3 phases. Right now I'll go through the second phase, and the community status assessment is really what I'm presenting on today. Right now we are in phase 3, continuously improving the community, and we have 4 health priorities. One is healthcare access, and then we have mental health, and we have housing and food security. So this, the values got a little funky, but this is our, we do have a core committee that of folks and community partners that work with us on this initiative. And in 2021, we developed our vision, mission, and values. And I won't read them all to you. You can look at the slides later. We do have a website too, if anyone's interested in looking at assessments or other data. It's healthyjoco.com. So I'll get into it here with our community status assessment. We measured a lot of different metrics on this one, like health status, healthcare access, food security, and housing. And housing is really what I'll go into depth today on. So this was in 2022, and we had about 725 respondents on this one. So I'll do a very general overview before diving into those metrics broken up by race and ethnicity. And so overall, we saw in our sample about 63% of respondents own a home, and then about 33% rent their home, and then 4% had another living arrangement. So we compared this to census information of the owner-occupied housing rate, and it was pretty similar to what the census had. So we felt it was a good sample. Our median monthly gross rent in our sample was a little bit lower than what the census had. And that just could be due to how respondents have put in their monthly rent costs. If they shared it with someone else, they might have just put their own costs down for that. But in our sample, we saw the monthly median housing cost for homeowners was about $1,200. And then in our sample, about 58% of renters spend 30% or more of their income on housing. And this is compared to about 13% of homeowners that spend 30% or more of their income on housing. Spending 30% or more of income on housing is threshold for housing cost burden, and then 50% is extreme housing cost burden. Let's see. So I do want to say that while data is insightful, disaggregated by race and ethnicity, or broken up by race and ethnicity, it's important to also note that there is intersectionality is important too. So there's more than an identity for a person other than their race. So like gender, sexual orientation, income, education, background. So unfortunately, in our sample, we were unable to also look at those demographic characteristics on top of race and ethnicity to get kind of a more smaller sample to see more insightful, I guess, metrics. But I will go into the next slides, kind of breaking it down for what we do have. So on renting versus owning, it is a very personal choice, we understand, and there are many reasons why someone may choose to rent versus own. And we just asked folks in our survey if they own or rent and not the reasons why. But the data does suggest racial disparities in home ownership and housing quality. And so while we only asked respondents whether they rent or own, the results do show that about 23% of non-Hispanic, Black, or African American respondents and 21% of Hispanic or Latino respondents own their homes, compared to about 75% of white non-Hispanic respondents. We also see housing quality varies by race and ethnicity. About 17% of Black respondents report fair housing quality, with no reports of poor housing. And then about 5% of non-Hispanic white respondents reported their housing as fair, and no reported as poor. Hispanic and Latino respondents had the highest rate of dissatisfaction with their reporting of their quality of housing, with about 34% reporting as fair to poor. So as I mentioned previously, breaking it up is by one identity is insightful, but it doesn't always show the whole pictures. And I think I always go back to the groundwater approach when I think about the why, and you're probably familiar with the groundwater approach with the Racial Equity Institute, inspired by Kamara Jones. So the metaphor is based on 3 truths, which I thought would be great to read. So racial inequity looks the same across systems. Socioeconomic difference does not explain the racial inequity, and inequities are caused by systems regardless of culture or behavior. And oftentimes, we hear some folks say that behavior piece could just change, but we really see these inequities across the system regardless of that behavior. So therefore, we have a groundwater issue, with the groundwater being the systems, institutions, and outcomes influenced by racism and the nature of racism as it exists in the United States. So back to our data. Generally, property owners are paying a little bit more on housing per month based on median costs compared to renters in our data. There is a disproportionate effect on Hispanic and Latino or non-Hispanic Black respondents being unable to pay their housing or utility bills at least once in the past 24 months at the time of this survey, compared to about 10% of non-Hispanic white respondents. Another disproportionate effect is seen on Hispanic and Latino respondents and non-Hispanic Black African American respondents currently facing serious financial problems paying rent or mortgage compared to non-Hispanic white respondents. And then we asked about rent in the past 2 years and whether or not it increased, and if so, how much did it increase, or if it stayed the same. So overall, non-Hispanic Black respondents were seeing a larger rent increases compared to both non-Hispanic white and Hispanic and Latino respondents. And this is all self-reported information too. I also disaggregated by a couple other things. So by income, about 31% of respondents making less than $40,000 a year had their rent increase $50 to $200 per month. And then 4% said it increased more than $200 a month. And about 45% of college students saw their rent costs increase from $50 to $200 per month. 27% said it increased more than $200 per month. So we also asked about moving. We asked about this because, moving is expensive too, and you have to pay a new, when you move, deposit, sorry. I don't know why I was blanking. A new deposit, and there are other costs associated with moving. And so we asked folks if they moved within Johnson County in the past 24 months. And the data reveals that there are disparities in some relocation patterns across racial groups in the past 24 months. So non-Hispanic Black respondents replied or said that they were more likely to have moved, about 42%. And then about 35% of Hispanic and Latino respondents said that they had moved in the past 24 months, compared to about 22% of white respondents. Non-Hispanic Black respondents also experienced higher rates of multiple moves, with about just under half moving 2 or more times. And so there are key reasons why folks moved. So the majority for all groups included just life changes. So that could mean a lot of things. So it was about half for every racial and ethnic group, they said that. And then we saw more non-Hispanic Black respondents, about 27% moved due to unaffordable rent, compared to about 17% of Hispanic and Latino respondents and about 8% of white respondents. And then white respondents were more likely to have purchased a new home, about 30%, compared to about 7% of non-Hispanic Black and 4% of Hispanic and Latino respondents. So my last slide on data, thank you for listening. This is a lot of numbers I'm throwing at you. So we talked about eviction, and about 2% of respondents experienced eviction in Johnson County on our sample. And so even though this seems like a really small number, eviction is an incredibly difficult and stressful time for anyone who does experience it. About 86% had no permanent home after eviction, and about 58% said it took more than a month for them to find permanent housing. 75% lived in either an emergency shelter, their car, or with friends and family until they could find a more permanent housing solution. And 83% said their new housing costs more compared to their previous home. So in open responses regarding eviction, some people shared that they not only lost their homes, but also their furniture and clothing. Several mentioned that no lawyers or law firms would take their cases. One individual recalled being a child at the time of eviction, which occurred over 10 years ago, but it still has an impact on them today. About another person did report receiving rental recovery assistance, yet their landlord was still demanding payment for an amount that was already covered. So as I mentioned earlier, actually I don't think I mentioned it earlier, we are looking to reassess this survey actually next year, if possible, to see if anything changed. So we're hoping to get a larger sample too and see if there are any more changes. And of course, we could always present that back to this group too. So enough with the data. I am going to leave it over to Haley to talk about current initiatives of our housing priority.
So as Jamie mentioned, housing is one of our 4 priorities. So I'm just going to briefly go over our 3 goals and some of the objectives that we have for those goals. So they're not final yet, and we've got about 14 committee members that are committed to finalizing these by the end of October. Goal 1 is to provide consistent public messaging and support from Johnson County Public Health for ongoing housing initiatives, programs, and work groups. And that would include understanding and assessing current community housing program initiatives, programs, and work groups with the deadline of December of 2025. It would also include assessing community members in Johnson County who are unhoused by June 2025 and providing health impact reports to a health and all policies approach on housing topic areas by December 2027. Goal number 2 would be to empower community members with information and advocacy on housing as healthcare. And the objectives include creating and promoting neighborhood education programs by December 2026, coordinating and supporting active education and awareness programs by December 2026, assessing for gaps in the community participation in education resource and navigation by June 2026. And the final goal, reducing additional financial barriers for renters. And the objectives for this one includes proposing and advocating for the local system and policy changes by June 2028, and establishing relationships with local landlords and promoting equitable and ethical treatment of tenants and potential tenants by June 2026.
We are happy to take any questions that commissioners may have.
Thank you very much for that good presentation. And I'll now open it for discussions, comments from fellow commissioners. Any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Commissioner Lobna, hand is up.
Hi, just have a question about this survey. When was the survey, and is that everybody know about it, or just a specific area, or just I want to know more about it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm happy to answer that. So the survey was from, I believe, September to November of 2022. The ways we got the survey out was through many different ways. We would go, we actually had 4 sites where we were on site with tablets every week, and we would have actually a strike force students with the College of Public Health involved in that too. So we would get folks right away to just take that survey on site. We also promoted online. We did a little bit on social media, but we know that's not really our target audience either. So we tried to do a lot with just speaking with partners about the survey, that it's out, a lot of word of mouth. Also, in addition to those other 4 sites, we went off on to other sites too. We did have a dashboard available with those sites, those 4 sites, so that they could see the information coming in. So it's very specific to their clients who they serve, so they could align their programs a little bit better with that knowledge. But we were also able to see a dashboard, and we were able to see certain demographics coming in that maybe we were missing. And so we did some extra outreach. We actually did extend the survey. We were supposed to end in October, but we decided to keep it going through November so that we could get more respondents and more, just more of a valid sample. And so, 725 was a little bit less than we wanted, and we do have more ideas in the future of how we would kind of get that number up so we can get more data that's really representative of our community. But with the 725, we did feel like it was a good sample. We just, of course, always want to improve on how that is disseminated and all of the folks taking it. So it was available in Spanish, French, Swahili, Arabic, English, and I believe that those are the languages it was in, if I'm correct. Yes. So yeah, that's a little bit about the survey.
Thank you. Any other question from the commission?
Yes, I have another question. Is that during the COVID time?
So
Okay.
during COVID times, is that what the question was? It was after COVID. So we do have some data before COVID, but it was a little while ago. So the last large health assessment was in 2015. There were some efforts in 2019, and that was before my time with the health department. But the questions asked didn't necessarily align with the past data either, so it was hard to see trends. So post-COVID, well, during COVID, in 2022, we decided on a new, just kind of starting fresh with that data, which is why we're really excited to get some more information this year and asking some of the same questions so we could see more of how that trend is going and if anything changed or got better or got worse. And
Okay, thank you.
yeah, thank you for your question.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your presentation. It's something I didn't even know that gets done, especially putting health and housing together. But then again, it's obvious because it's an area that does affect people's health and does also, and to help even look at the inequity that is causing this. So thank you for that, because it's useful for, on my end, for those who advocate. They have information to, they have the data, the information to help and show with that evidence. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll also add that we absolutely want to work with communities too. So if there is another, question that you would like to be asked in future surveys, we would be open to adding that question too. We love when our data is used by the community. If we can get grants and extra resources in our community to address these issues, then that's wonderful. That's exactly what we want this information used for.
How do I see mental health there in the health and housing? And how do I see immigrants and refugees in our county?
Yeah. So one thing, and I believe Amos, you actually asked about this once when we presented, but we did not ask that, immigrant or refugee status on the survey. So we were not able to disaggregate to see the disparities there. We kind of were wondering if we, should ask, because we are government too, but of course, if we did ask it on future iterations, it would not be a required question, and no demographic questions were required in our survey either. So folks could skip those if they felt more comfortable doing that. But yeah, if you wanted to see more information, we do have some data on mental health, and so that's really part of our community status assessment as well. That's online, but we're also happy to do specialized reports too for folks if they see a metric that they want disaggregated or broken up by a certain factor, then we can definitely do that too.
Thank you. Any other question from the commission?
Yeah, this is Lauren, Vice Chair. It will be interesting when you guys redo this in January. Because if you did this back in 2022, and just knowing how, especially with housing and costs that have gone up, it'll be interesting how your new results are going to show up next year.
Yeah, thank you. I echo that as well. We're excited to see excited maybe isn't the word, but we're really interested to see what that change will look like.
Thank you. Any other question or discussion?
I'm just hoping we have a copy of your presentation. You leave one behind, or it's already with us?
No, it's, I got it today, and it will be archived with the packet, and I can just send it out to all commissioners too, but it will be archived with your packet as a late handout.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I have a couple of
It
questions.
looks like Annie has a question, but can you come to one of the microphones to ask it so that it's on the recording?
Well, it's great to have this information. Thank you. Questions that came up for me was, does your work include research on systemic or policy solutions? So, for example, when I think of rent increases, I remember that when I was a kid, in the town near us, Santa Monica, California, they actually had rent control for a while. So I wonder what other communities are doing regarding these same issues, and if there are policies or practices. Oh, cool, I'll step aside.
So that's actually one of the points of discussion when we're talking about the different goals that we have for housing. So right now, since we're kind of jumping into housing as public health people, pretty new, the learning curve is quite steep, but one of the main things that we are able to do is to present data and advocate for these different policies. And then after time, that can grow into something more. But we're trying to build a strong foundation and a strong presence in like the housing sector as of now, just like with what Jamie spoke about. But that is definitely on our brain and definitely on everyone's brain when they're talking about housing, because policy is a thing that changes the main system that's hurting a lot of folks. So.
Cool. Great, thank you. I'd love to just say a couple of other areas that I was wondering about policy or change. When you said a number of people have fair or poor housing, then what I wondered was, what's the relationship between the existence of that and the fact that our city has housing inspectors? How does that fly? How does that allowed to continue if we, what would it look like if our inspectors were looking at things at a particular frequency? Is that a factor? Is what they inspect for include things that would be interpreted as fair or poor? So can that be part of something that is a requirement for landlords, right? So that came up in my head. And then the thing about home ownership is like, who can afford to get down payment? Who benefits from a need for down payment? I mean, if you've got someone who's paid a comparable rent regularly, why can't they step into home ownership and continue paying that without having had to try to save tens of thousands of dollars to get in the game? And if you're a homeowner, you know that what happens is you've got that equity, and then someone who has that equity can use it for different things, like down payment on something, right? Like education. So I'm just, those were just some questions that came up for me. And also, I know that you're really aware of the Affordable Housing Coalition. So anyway, thanks for your good work, and thanks for letting me ask those questions.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, unless there's a question from the commission. I'm still looking. Okay. So my first question is on the question of mobility. And you mentioned that usually it's a question and sometimes choice, but we also know that it, like you said, is through eviction and other difficulties of staying where you were, issues of affordability. And I saw the data on eviction, and I was wondering, I don't know if I asked you that in our earlier meeting before, but on if there were disparities on eviction rates by race, anything like that, or that was not there?
So unfortunately, it was so statistically with the sample we got with that 2%, it's just so small that we were not able to disaggregate it further. I think it was about 15 or 20 respondents. So we typically do not report on counts less than 6 or 7, just for statistical errors and, you know, anonymity. And so it's hard to really see that overall within this data. But certainly, you know, there are other data sets potentially that might have more of that information. But yeah, so unfortunately, we're not able to see that.
Okay. The other question is on also still on choice, on of whether renting or buying.
Yeah.
Of course, you gave us the disparities. We could see they are wide, very, very wide, between the blacks and the whites and the Hispanics, very wide.
Yeah.
And you believe those are statistically significantly different?
I do. I do believe that. I could give you, I don't have it with me right now, but I certainly could give you those percentages and then the confidence interval too, with 95% confidence if you're wanting to see kind of deviations and what that looks like too. But in all of this, we had a good sample, so we were able to see those disparities pretty clearly.
Yes, yeah, I'm asking that because sometimes those differences are just too small and somebody can say, well, those are due to errors.
Right.
But if you can confirm to the commission that these are statistically significantly different across racial groups.
Sure.
That's a nice information.
Sure.
Also on the question of, I don't know if you had questions on barriers to home ownership. Did you have any question of that nature?
We really didn't. And I think that's something we could definitely ask in the future. Because housing is a priority of ours, we were interested in getting more information on housing. So if we could add, in the future iteration, more of a question on those barriers specifically, that would be very insightful, and we could come present that back to you, hopefully, at the end of the year.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. While discrimination is a barrier in itself, did you make an attempt to get an experience of the communities you're working with on their experiences with discrimination, both in renting, public housing, vouchers, all different types of housing that we have in the community?
Yeah, did we get any feedback from?
Did you make an attempt to get some information regarding experiences with discrimination? We know landlords sometimes do.
Yes.
From evidence. So
yes.
we wanted probably to see, how about in our community here? Could we also look for some disparities here? We know it is there, but can you confirm to us statistically?
Right, in the data. Unfortunately, with the more like this quantitative data with the percentages, we do not have that information. Like you probably also have. We do have those like anecdotal stories and the information, the qualitative stories from people who have experienced that. But it is hard to put into a certain percentage of the community experiencing that. Potentially, we could look at metrics in the future to ask those questions in a future iteration of our survey. But potentially, there might be even other surveys or other efforts in the community that have asked those questions as well. So potentially, maybe you'll hear later about that.
Also, as a side note,
Yes, go ahead.
Iowa Legal Aid, I think, is a great resource for numbers on those specific numbers, like for discrimination. They do an excellent job of discrimination testing, and I'm not sure when their next report comes out, but they would be an excellent place to look for that data.
Okay, and I want you to stay there on, this is a policy question.
Haley.
Iowa City, the city of Iowa City does surveys like you just mentioned, a lot of them on housing choice, affordability, and other things. We still see some gaps, just like in your survey too. Nothing can be perfect. It's always improvement. And so I was wondering, when you'll be embarking on policy map 3, the third part, will you be collaborating with the city of Iowa City Housing or Commission, this Iowa City Development Housing and Development Commission? So how close do you work with them? Because they might have some issues that can also inform you when you're doing your surveys that can really help. So I'm wondering, do you collaborate with them, or are you thinking of that?
Oh, yeah. So we've got 14 members on the Housing Committee so far, and they're all from a variety of different sectors, be it government, city, county, any of those, and a variety of different organizations too. So a lot of collaboration and big discussions happening in one room, which has been really great to kind of see those silos get broken down. So we're definitely trying to include as many housing sectors as we can because there's such a variety of housing issues that we have in Johnson County. So we've got folks who are interested in rural housing for elderly folks. We've got people who are concerned about immigration or refugees coming in and finding proper housing. And we also have people who are concerned just about like prices of housing in general. And of course, the student population. But I feel pretty confident that we've got good representation for a lot of the communities that need representation for the housing community, including folks who are like unsheltered physically as well.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And I can't remember if I saw that on the question of homelessness. I think you mentioned something about that. And I know this is a question that should address to the guys who deal with homelessness, the shelter guys. And one group is here that's going to probably talk about that. But in your data, can you remind the Commission one more time disparities on homelessness, if you can, if that was there?
As far as our data, we asked, whether or not folks own or rent, and then there was another option for something like I have another arrangement. So that wasn't defined, unfortunately. It was about 4% that said another arrangement. But there was also, in the eviction information too, of, where folks went after they were evicted. And it was like 80%, 86% said that they had no permanent housing solution at that time. So that's really, I would say those are the main areas on our survey that we have potential information about that. But, there might be potential for more of a survey conducted in the future to see really what that looks like right now.
I would be interested in knowing, once evicted as somebody who's a BIPOC, a minority, how long does it take them and compared to other persons?
Sure.
Because the duration, homeless, anybody can be homeless 1 or 2 days, but if it is severe, you get into other problems. So that's something that when you're doing more analytics and other things, you can help us with in the future, or help the Commission or the city or whoever can use that information. Yeah.
I think that's been one of the best things about doing the CHIP preparation stuff is kind of realizing where the gaps were, like in the survey, or like, oh, we could ask this question, or like we're missing information for like this portion of people. So we're excited to conduct the next CHA soon, and very much so looking forward to filling in some of those gaps.
Thank you. Any comment from the public?
And Lubna's hand seems to be up. I don't know whether it's from the previous time.
Yeah, this is me. Hi. Yeah, just I have a question for you about the people that when they get evictions, and some from like social worker from the housing, from the shelter, they put them on the waiting list. How long it takes that for these people to find a house?
How long it takes?
I don't have the date time for how long it takes to find shelter, but I know that there is a very long wait list. I'm sure some folks in the audience have a better answer for that, but for shelters that are approved by the state, I think the waiting list is excruciatingly long for people.
Okay, thank you.
I'll piggyback on that and what Commissioner Kiche was talking about homelessness. I'm curious whether, because you said somebody is evicted or whatever reason they are homeless, did any of the people, the surveyees, did they say they lived on the street and maybe name, did the survey allow for that? And did people actually do admit that they are actually on a street or under a bridge? Because from my work, I do get people who really are out on the street. Mm-hmm. Were you getting such from your survey, or was it set up in a way that somebody was able to have that put down?
I believe yes. We tried to get the survey out in as many locations as possible, and did use a lot of libraries, food pantries. I do also, yes, it is a concern too. All of this is self-reported information. And so us also being the government too is another thing we think about is we would never use results to find one person. That's never our what we're looking at when we're analyzing data.
No. I'm not saying a person. I'm just saying participant.
If they actually answered that way. So that's an unknown. We would hope that they would answer correctly so that we could have that information, but That's
actually kind of something that we've been working on with the housing committee to do like a one-pager for the community about different housing terms to use to properly address different forms of being homeless or unsheltered or whatever it might be. So someone who's experiencing unsheltered homelessness is going to have a very different experience than someone who's experiencing living in their car or living with their sister or living with their mom. Still all under the umbrella of being homeless and still all things that need to be addressed. But we're, as JCPH, kind of narrowing down those definitions to make sure that we can get more accurate data on all of those different things because they are different and they affect different demographics. So we're excited to continue to educate ourselves and also the public on the different definitions of all the ways that homelessness can encompass a community.
Thank you very much. That is very interesting. I think that question has come a lot in other discussions on the definition, the concepts, and it usually really helps when that information is given to the communities around here. And we wish the government, the two governments, Iowa City and the Johnson County, will really benefit from what you've done. But I really appreciate your acceptance to participate in this. It's not always very easy, to come, and to others don't have that time. But the Commission really appreciates your coming. Unless there is any other question from the public or from the Commission.
And then also commenting on homelessness, that rabbit hole, because sometimes capturing like the one individual being homeless, but then that one individual could also be a unit of, it could be a parent with children, or it could be a group of siblings, or it could be an expecting mother. So, yeah, just some of those things that information coming out does help with making solutions. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can always bring these issues to your consortium, the other guys you collaborate with, and some of the concerns that we have. These are not our personal concerns. These are things that we collect from the community. Commissioner Lubna interacts a lot with the community. She has a lot of questions. She just gave you a very little of them. Yeah, I also do a little, but in the
Bring 'em
future,
on.
we will work with you. So we really appreciate, and I'll move on to the next agenda, which is a presentation from the Iowa City Catholic workers on housing and the funding.
Commissioner Kiche, are we going to invite public comments at this point or later on number 6?
Later.
Okay.
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to start out, thank you so much for the invitation to be here, really exciting. My name is Emily, I'm from the Iowa City Catholic Worker.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Ninoska Campo y soy miembro de la organización Escucha Mi Voz.
Good evening. My name is Niñosca Campos, and I'm from the organization Escucha Mi Voz. We were also going to be joined by another person, Ruby, but she's not feeling well, so I'm going to be doing the majority of the talking, and then Niñosca is going to be presenting a part of the presentation as well. And really, I'm just going to touch on a lot of different things. So just because of time, I'm not going to have a lot of time to go in depth in a lot of these things that I'm presenting, but we could talk a lot about this issue. So hopefully this will just give you a little bit more knowledge. So we're going to talk about fair and just housing for essential immigrant workers. This is just the definition of segregation, and I'm not going to go into it. But what I want to demonstrate is some maps of Iowa City. And what this is showing you is really Iowa City historically of racially restricted neighborhoods. And the covenants have created segregated neighbors. So you can see the areas of the green on the map. So we see south of Highway 6E, west of Mormon Trek, near Coralville Hy-Vee. Are multifamily and the only majority Black African and African American neighborhoods. So just give you a minute to look at that. And then we're going to move to the next map where you're going to focus on these dark purple areas. And this is where you can see mobile home parks around the industrial neighborhoods near the airport, east of South Boulevard, and they're nearly 1/3 Hispanic or Latino. So people of color are segregated to these areas on the margins or fringes of the city, in part because of single-family zoning. So that was kind of a lot to take in, but next I'm going to kind of switch gears, and what I'm going to talk about is our survey that we did. It's called Salud, Techo, and Trabajo, and that means health, housing, and work. And this was a collaboration between the University of Iowa College of Nursing, where I work as my day job, Johnson County Public Health, so we work closely with them as well, and Escucha Mi Voz. And what we did is we surveyed 481 immigrant workers in this area. It's also called a whole worker health survey. We asked a lot of different questions. I'm just gonna focus on a couple of the questions that we asked that focus more around housing. So just to give you a little idea of the demographics of the immigrant workers. So the majority of the 481 immigrant workers who completing our housing and health survey, they live in those same neighborhoods that I showed you just previously. And survey respondents included 200 Black African refugees and 281 Hispanic Latino immigrants. And we did these surveys face-to-face and over the phone. And because Escucha Mi Voz and Catholic Worker is, I would describe, a trusted organization among some of these groups of people, we were able to gather a lot of important information. So we did ask about just, where they work, the occupations, and so this just gives you a little view of that. So we also know from the survey that the majority did not have health insurance, do not have paid sick leave. They make less than $20 an hour, and they pay over $800 a month in housing. So meatpacking plant is up there, workers 25.6%. Then you can see other essential worker roles here. Again, we asked a lot of questions. I'm just hitting some of the highlights. Of 50% of the Latino respondents stated that they actually lived in double up or triple up conditions, and we consider that homelessness. So this is a image that I put together, and it's pretty accurate, but things are always changing. And when we did this survey, when we asked people, one of the questions that we asked was their legal status. So we were able to find out, were people here undocumented? Were they a permanent resident? Were they in the asylum process? Were they presented at the border? And so that helped us understand, because it's really important when we're trying to help somebody to understand this part, because depending on their legal status, they are able to get different benefits. One example, recently, and this is not a criticism, Johnson County redid their policy for General Assistance Fund, and they no longer can include people who are undocumented. You have to have legal status in this, here in order to get the assistance, including rent. And that happened because of the COVID emergency went away. So that's one example. I'm not going to be sending somebody who's undocumented to Johnson County to get assistance because they're not going to qualify. And this is just like a little graph that tells you, depending on legal status, what might they qualify for. You can see that if you have permanent residency, or even if you presented at the border. Now this is the stars, meaning this is iffy because depending on policy at the time, for example, it can take 6 months to get your work visa. You even need a lawyer to do that, for example. Now recently the federal government has changed that a little bit, where you can apply right away for a work permit, but you do have to have $520 to do that. So. Anyway, so you can see some of the gaps, and this really helps us design programs that can meet everyone's needs if we have an understanding. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about the Catholic Worker House, what we like to describe as right-sized, permanent supportive housing for immigrants and refugees. We've been around for about 8 years. In 2018 is when we started housing immigrants and refugees, and that's what we've done since. So between the two houses of hospitality, we have anywhere between like 30, 35 families, immigrant workers, and children. It just depends on how many kids really people have. So we've never tracked, Iowa City Catholic Worker and Escucha Mi Voz were sister organizations. We never tracked what we did. We just did it. But we decided we would try to start because it's really hard to really capture what you do when you're providing hospitality. But we thought, hey, why don't we start a little bit, right? So in March of 2024, so 7 months ago, we decided to track what we could because, it's hard to track everything. And so since March, we've provided, although it's been more because we can't track everything, 803 services. And these are our supportive services for people in our house, but also for people in the community that reach out to us. We do a lot of transportation, not around town. We like to teach people how to use the bus, especially if it's free, but we take people to Omaha for their court dates. We go to Cedar Rapids for immigration check-ins. Chicago is also big for passports. We provide housing, school, childcare, ELL, medical activities, community education, and et cetera. So we've tracked about 116 services a month from what we can track. And this breaks it down just a little further, and I'm not going to go into detail, but we do help people connect with an immigration lawyer. We connect them with bonds if they need that. We do a lot of services around OWI, so immigrants who get OWIs and helping them work through that. You can see our transportation. One thing, lots of activities for kids. And then one thing we also do that I like to point out, obviously, teaching people how to use all the great resources in our community, but we do have a microloan program for folks who need a small microloan, maybe to put down a deposit for a lawyer or get a car, things like that. So I could talk for a long time about the Catholic Worker and the services we do, but we want to switch now to the pro-housing funding that the city has and some of our recommendations.
Voy a hablar un poco lo que es el subsidio federal Pro Housing de $6 millones.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the $6 million Pro Housing Fund.
Promover afirmativamente la vivienda justa, abordando y eliminando barreras que perpetúan la segregación.
This is to promote fair housing by addressing and removing barriers that perpetuate segregation.
Se dará prioridad a los solicitantes que demuestren un compromiso y progreso hacia la superación de las barreras locales a la vivienda accesible y que tengan una demanda aguda de vivienda accesible.
So priority was given to applicants who demonstrated commitment and progress toward overcoming local barriers to affordable housing and who have an acute demand for affordable housing.
Iowa City fue la primera de las 20 ciudades en toda la nación que ganó este subsidio.
So I'm not sure how much you know about the pro housing. You probably have heard of this and know about this, but Iowa City was one of the 20 cities nationwide to win the grant.
3.75 millones en fondos para viviendas accesibles.
The award was for $3.7 million for affordable housing solutions.
Y la ciudad prometió el 52%, que son 2 millones adicionales.
And the city and the application pledged an additional 52%, so $2 million more, and we do hope that they keep their pledge.
¿Cuál es el plan que tiene Iowa City?
So what is Iowa City's plan?
Quieren invertir $500,000 en estudios y encuestas.
So in their plan or in their budget, they have $500,000 for more studies.
¿Cuál es la recomendación que Escucha Mi Voz da?
But what are the recommendations that Escucha Mi Voz is giving?
No necesitamos más encuestas. Necesitamos deshacernos de la segregación dentro de nuestra ciudad.
We feel that we don't need more studies. We need to end exclusionary zoning in our city and rezone high density for multifamily.
¿Qué recomienda la ciudad? Proyectos pilotos de vivienda accesible.
In the city's plan, they would like an affordable housing pilot project.
¿Qué es lo que recomienda Escucha Mi Voz?
Escucha Mi Voz recommends
Proyectos de piloto que necesitan servir y también incluir a los inmigrantes. Nosotros debemos también estar en control.
we recommend a new affordable housing project that must advance racial equity by including previously excluded immigrant workers in the decisions and outcomes.
¿Qué es lo que recomienda la ciudad? Incentivos para DUS.
The city is also recommending incentives for accessory dwelling units, although this is a tiny bit old. I think they may have taken that out.
¿Qué es lo que recomienda Escucha Mi Voz?
What does Escucha Mi Voz recommend?
Es dinero que va a ir a los bolsillos de los propietarios. Esto no garantiza que va a ayudar directamente a los inmigrantes.
These incentives, this part of the fund would really just go to single-family homeowners. There's no guarantee it would benefit immigrant workers.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, do you want it back?
It would be good if you
Yeah,
don't
that's
mind.
fine.
But you can keep going. Sí, ya si quiere. Oh, está en inglés. No, you're fine. We can keep going, but I think they might want to see the recommendation.
Well, you know what?
¿Qué es lo que recomienda la ciudad? Un aumento de vivienda y apoyo financiero.
So the last thing is the city is recommending is expanding rent and utility assistance.
¿Qué es lo que recomienda Escucha Mi Voz?
And what we would recommend,
Escucha Mi Voz exige a la ciudad que elimine los requisitos que nos excluye.
too many immigrant workers are excluded from existing rent and utility assistance program. So for racial equity, new types of programs must be made.
¿Qué es lo que queremos para Pro Housing?
So how do we want the Pro Housing Fund to be spent?
Queremos que los 6 millones vayan directamente a vivienda accesible para los inmigrantes.
We would like them to invest the $6 million directly into permanent supportive housing and deeply affordable housing for immigrant workers.
Rezonificar toda la ciudad a lotes multifamiliares para poner fin a la segregación y permitir que las personas de color vivan de manera accesible en toda la ciudad.
Rezone the city for high-density housing to end segregation and allow ethnic minorities and excluded workers to live in the heart of the city, not just south of the highway and in trailer parks.
Eliminar las barreras que discriminen a los inmigrantes.
Eliminate unfair and unjust housing barriers that prevent immigrant workers from equally accessing aid and assistance.
Mejor aplicación de las protecciones para los inquilinos y las leyes de vivienda justa.
And better enforcement of existing laws to protect tenants from predatory landlords. Do you want to just leave it off, Stephanie, or?
Well, for some reason it rebooted, so I
Oh,
have
that's
to log
okay.
back into
Oh, no problem.
So that's what I'm
So I'll just read these recommendations, although you also have our packet. There are several that I'm gonna say, but these are recommendations for the consolidation plan for the city. The first one is to add Escucha Mi Voz Iowa to the list of legacy aid to agency organizations. The number 2 one is rezone the city of Iowa City for high-density multifamily development with a real plan to overcome the opposition of certain neighborhood associations that are standing in the way of fair and just housing for all. Include in all future city planning documents the definition of disabled permanent supportive housing services and eligible populations already contained in the new two-family housing code. Number 4, we need to update the city's definition of homelessness. The U.S. Department of Education and the Iowa City schools, they do a really great job of this. Their definition is different. They include individuals, children, and families living in doubled or tripled up occupancy. And so this gives them the ability to serve a lot more people. And we would recommend Iowa City update their definition as well so that those folks are not excluded. Next is presume single immigrant workers and immigrant families with children are low to moderate income and accept self-certifications for all housing assistance requirements. Number 6, consider all mobile home park residents living in unincorporated Iowa City to be city residents for the purpose of accessing housing resources and all other services. Better yet, just incorporate the unincorporated areas and use the land to build more housing. Next is allocate a percentage of federal housing funds each year for non-voucher-based permanent supportive housing developments for ethnic minorities who have been left out of previous homelessness prevention and affordable housing initiatives. Number 8, allocate a percentage of federal housing funds each year to ethnic minority populations who make up the majority of the residents living in those areas from our Census Bureau tracts that I described in the beginning of the presentation. Number 9, negotiate a 20% developer donation on all new affordable housing development projects. And finally, work with member organizations with a demonstrated base of support in directly impacted communities to create housing projects and programs outside of the voucher system. And that is all from our presentation.
Thank you very much.
It's a good lesson, don't always bring handouts.
Yeah, right. And I can also send you a copy of our Salud Techo and Trabajo survey if you want to look at it.
Yes, we really like to have a good dive at that detailed information. You've talked a lot of things, good recommendations that are good. So I just want to say that I really appreciate your coming, and it's a good example to our community of how small communities, minorities can, effortless, with a lot of passion, engage into issues that affect our communities. Housing, very, very important, and we really appreciate that effort and how you go into the communities, get information, and how brave you guys are to just walk to different places to get this information. This is information that is usually very, very hard. And if the city doesn't have this information, they can't come up with very good policies. And it's usually very hard, and they prefer to have very good information. I think they appreciate your work. We also do. Yeah. Just I'll open the discussion for commissioners to respond.
Do we want the public to go first in responding?
I would prefer that the commission responds first and the public towards the end, yes.
No, you're fine. They have the
Okay, first is to... Lubna's hand is up.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is is a big topic, and it's in real life, and discussion now I think is not going to be end soon. are we able to meet with you so we can discuss all this?
Oh, yes, of course. We can bring more people too who are a part of the work as well. So it wasn't just me and Ninyoska.
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of questions, but the time is not going to be enough.
Yeah, and that way I'll give you time to look over everything a little bit more because I really just touched on the highlights. So.
That on the website, yeah?
The Salud Techo and Trabajo survey might be, but I'll email it out too and double check if it's on our website.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, thank you, Emily. I had the privilege of attending one of your presentations in the community, and it is a presentation that touches me personally because it happened to be in my church, St. Patrick's Catholic Church in Iowa City. And then it's your survey and the presentation of all that. For me, I end up with a feeling of sadness, but also hope, because it's personal, because I'm part of that group, that a lot of times it was exciting to actually see a bar of written Black African, because a lot of times disaggregating even that data for purposes of solutions becomes difficult. But then again, as we had in our earlier in our earlier presentation, government and wording and all that, but at the same time, it also, that ends up being a barrier to the solutions. So it is exciting to see the disaggregation and actually putting in a figure of 250 that responded to the surveys, but at the same time sad, because it is what you're talking about and the issues that are there, and homelessness, they are very real to me, because many a time I get people who are completely, it's winter and somebody has a child or children and they are in my office and they don't have anywhere to go. That's always a very difficult moment, because I can't take them home. They can't sleep in the office. But thank you to Catholic Worker House and other safe places, and all the other people, partners that we partner with. In my hands, I've never had to leave somebody on the street. Yeah, even if people still work together. But with your presentation, you've been in existence since 2018. That was one of my most exciting moments, just adding that. But trying to bring it back to our government to continue helping this particular population, because somebody did say that our greatness lies in the weakest of us. And any of us who are from the Iowa City, Johnson County communities can be that particular time at any moment. Somebody can be, any of us can end up being homeless, for life does happen. Yeah. And the other exciting but also sad thing for you, I got that again when you presented. I do know that there is segregation in housing in Johnson County, in Iowa City. I do know that. I personally have been a victim of that. So, but And I'm also aware of those neighborhoods where there will be mainly people who look like me. But seeing you put it out there on a map, it's good. It makes it, data is powerful. It makes it real, but at the same time, makes me sad, but at the same time, it's a useful tool, and especially with a platform like the TRC, to keep the very real struggle of housing and homelessness going, especially for our vulnerable and I don't even know, even marginalized, or they just doesn't seem to exist. But thank you for bringing them and actually putting them somewhere on something that I can hold and show. I'm known to keep going. I can go on for the next 24 hours, but I'll just say thank you again. And I look forward to Lubna's suggestion on having more time where we can we continue discussions arising from your presentation. And thank you again.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Just really quick, again, thank you for sharing your thoughts. It's good. I could listen to you for 24 hours, I think. One thing that wasn't here tonight that was at St. Pat's that night were stories, people who are affected and want change. So, we didn't have time for that, but that was something that was missing tonight. So.
Yeah, especially beneficiaries of the work that you do.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner. Any other question from the Commission? Okay, I have a question. Before I ask those questions, I wanted to reiterate that I also attended your presentation at the church that day, and it was very moving. I experienced the 6 people, I think there were 6 or 7, that were presenting on their experiences in the community, their struggles with housing, and how you help them. So in addition to doing a good work in terms of surveys, other things, we also applaud what the organization is doing, especially to those 6 persons. And you said there were very many, like you will give us these numbers. There are very, very many. You just picked a few. Some of people are never willing to come to the gathering like that to talk because of fear and other things and language issues and other things. But you're also doing a good job because you're always ready there to interpret for whoever is willing to do. So that's another important service, connecting the communities that have difficulty with the communication and understanding. Okay, I'll come to questions now. Do you have a clue on the nature of funding of your organization?
Say that again?
Funding, resources.
How much funding?
I don't just want a proportion, like where's your major source of funding coming from?
Our major source of funding?
Yes.
Most of our funding, and I guess I feel really proud of our funding. And I know I'm standing up here, but I'm not, it's just not me. The Catholic worker isn't me. I'm just the one up here. So, but it comes from individual donors. This is actually the very first year ever that we'll accept government funding. We organize individuals, we organize churches to support the Iowa City Catholic worker. And then Escuche Mi Voz does a lot of grants and things like that.
So much of it, excuse me, is from private sources. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's hope that the 2 governments here locally will listen and help, especially with the grant that they were given by the federal government, the $6 million grant. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very positive. I have a question also on the population, the demographics, and some of the persons you experience or you come across. Are there sometimes mixed family households where you find like 2 persons, so 2 children are actually American citizens?
Absolutely, all the time.
But the parents might not be, for some reason, a different category of legal status, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you see any issues about access to resources, education, transportation, immunization, things that such kind of families or those American citizens might be experiencing because of the status of their parents.
Right, they're affected because of the status of their parents. So for example, in the state of Iowa, you can't get a driver's license if you don't have a social security number. So even though they may have 3 children that were born here, the parents are still affected. You know, they can't get a driver's license. They couldn't apply for rental assistance right now through Johnson County, things like that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, very much. So you are attesting to the idea that it is possible that some of the regulations are actually harming American citizens that probably have rights to some resources like other Americans.
Absolutely, and most recently, the state law that is being appealed in the courts right now, where basically police could act as an immigration official and ask for people for documentation. So that would affect American citizens if their parents were arrested and deported.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question? Otherwise, I'll check on.
One more thing is
Yes.
we do have a proposal, a specific proposal for the money that I didn't share tonight, but maybe in our next discussion, we can share that with you. So
Yes, yeah, we really
we met with the city.
want to hear a lot more at a different level. Yes, yeah.
And Emily, back to housing and starters.
Yeah.
Some of the people end up being their their children or some members of the family. The children are American citizens, but the parents are not.
Correct.
So it becomes very difficult for them even to rent
Absolutely.
or even have a home.
Absolutely. And
So, yeah.
And a lot of assistance, you need to prove that you have a lease in your name, you have a light bill in your name, and those things aren't possible for folks who don't have a social security number. So they even avoid applying at all. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, we do hear that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wango, you were worried about the public.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah.
Any person online? If there is no any other discussion of that topic, I propose that we move to the next agenda.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much, and we
Yeah.
will be engaged.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. The next agenda is on actions for phases 3 and 4 of our commission. And the first one is about meet and greet events. So I just want to give it to all the commissioners to discuss what these events might look like, the attendance and other things, and what we expect. But I have a couple of events in here. Yeah, meet and greet. We are going to have 2 of them, I think, from the last meeting. One was in Iowa City Public Library on Saturday, October 5th. The other one is going to be on Sunday, October 20th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So we have 2 meet and greet events that are on schedule.
I wonder whether this is a good, is part of the agenda to report on the 2 events that took place between this meeting and last meeting, or it will have to go on another agenda. The meet and greet with NISA, African Family Services, and at the African Festival. I don't know whether that needs to can be part of this agenda.
I think the NISA one can. I think the.
What did you say?
I think the NISA one can. I think the celebration wasn't really a meet and greet.
Okay.
So to speak, but the NISA one, from what I saw in the emails, was. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarification, Stephanie.
Thank you very much for that. And Earlier on, I was thinking I would talk about that under announcements of commissioners, but I think it is a germane issue, so very important to what we have on Part A. So on September 20th, Commissioner Chair Dillard Wangui and me, Amos, met 5 persons from the NISA organization. This is an NGO based in Des Moines and also in Iowa City. It does a lot of work on issues of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. And there are other things, services that they provide regarding housing, accommodating people who have been evicted, counseling, and a range of resources, very, very important. That's what I heard from the group. And another important thing I heard from the group is that they are mainly funded by the state, the Iowa State. And a few other, I think one other source of funding. I can't remember the name, but Commissioner Wangui will probably. Bawa, yes, will help us with that. So, so that's the second important thing. The other thing that I learned from the meet is that the organization is been providing a lot of services, but at the moment they are going through a lot of financial trouble. They want to do much more to the communities, especially in the area of violence among youth, among immigrant and refugee communities. But the capacity they have is very, very limited, restricted to what they have been doing before, but they're seeing an emergence of a different type of problem among these younger communities that they believe, based on their expertise and learning and experiences, that if there were programs that catered towards these communities that are sometimes difficult to reach by the regular services offered by the government to the youth, then they would help these young persons change their lives. And a lot of violence, including shootings, gun violence, sometimes very bad. And so what I got from them is asking and ask. They believe the local governments, just like the local governments do help other organizations around here, can also start to help smaller organizations like NISA with resources that could help their communities. So that's an important thing that I learned, and they believe it's part of equity in how community resources, public resources are shared, that they also, if they can apply, that be given access to such resources to help different communities that they're helping. So I think those are the 3 things that I got, but commissioners, the other 2 commissioners can add anything that they think I've missed.
I just want to remind my fellow commissioners that NISA serves statewide, but already that had been stated by Commissioner Amos, but it's one of the organizations in the state that that came about to fulfill a racial equity need in the area of sex violences. And that is even the reason why I suggested that the TRC do a meet and greet with the organization, and adding to what our director shared about the challenge of what to do about African youth, not just in mainly where the African population is mainly found in Davenport, Cedar Rapids area, our city and Johnson County, and Des Moines area mostly, the heavier population. And one of the challenges is interaction with the police. Cases such as the ones that were shared by the fact-finding team that scientifically looked at the information in our city. So that challenges the organization on what to do, especially because on January 4, 2021, some African youth died in Des Moines in a police chase after a phone call was made that they were driving a stolen car. So the youth that ranged between 12 and 17, when the police started chasing, they were driving at 100 miles an hour. So out of all that, because families were devastated, and some of the impacted youth are impacted by domestic violence. They are children of the survivors and victims that the organization serves. So the organization has been racking its head on what to do, especially because with the youth, them coming from a population that is unequally impacted by police interactions, negative police interactions. And not just in Des Moines, but even here in Iowa City. In one of our truth-telling sessions, we had a mother of an African youth sharing her truth. So that's one of the things that they took some time sharing that with the commissioners on that challenge and how they would go about it. I'll stop there. I don't know whether Commissioner Dillard has something to add.
I think you both covered it beautifully.
Okay, thank you very much. Any public comment? Okay, I'll move to the second part B of the agenda, which is final report.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Kiche, to take you back. So are we done with the meet and greets, the future ones? Especially the one on Saturday?
If there is any additional information that can be discussed, we can continue doing that. But I think this was prearranged earlier on in the last probably two meetings behind. The place, the time, and other things, and preparations have been made. So, but if there are other questions about the meet and greet events, and that commissioners are free to discuss.
I was just going to add that there are flyers which were available for folks that came in person. So, but Amos will take them to the event this Saturday and distribute them to the folks who come to the first one. There have been refreshments, some snacks ordered for the event. For those of you who are attending, it's getting delivered at 10:45. If you arrive before Amos, you will need to go to the information desk at the library and check out the key for meeting room B, and then just return it after the event. There will be mobile crisis counselors there. There's been news releases. It's been on social media, and there's also a sign-up genius for community members to RSVP on. So.
Thank you, Stephanie, for such a nice update. Any other question on the meet and greet before we could move to the final report?
I think my question is more to Chastity. what's the outline of activities at the 2 meet and greets? And who's facilitating the meet and greets?
Thank you, Commissioner Athawa. If you all remember, I will not be there this weekend, and the commissioners who agreed to be there on this weekend are the ones that will be facilitating. We discussed that this meet and greet would simply be a way to introduce ourselves and to discuss further what our activities have been, what we're hoping to, and to get an idea, just to hear from the public and their own experiences. So it really is up to whoever is going to be there this weekend to make sure that that happens. I hope that answers your question.
When you talk about experiences of the attendees,
I'm sorry?
when you talk of experiences of the attendees, so
I don't think I'm understanding the word experiences, and then I don't know what you're saying after that.
no, that is, I'm asking general ratio inequity experiences.
Yes, anything that has to do with our mission as a commission.
Thank you for clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and to add on that day, we expect to see Commissioner Tashinari, Gadoa, Kiche, and Mohammed. Those are the ones who, at the moment, suggested they would be willing to come. And on the October 20th, we will see Commissioner Delad, Commissioner Gadoa, Commissioner Kiche, and Commissioner Mohammed. But other commissioners are still welcome to join.
Actually, if you listed 4 people for this Saturday, so that's the limit. If another commissioner comes, then one other commissioner will have to leave the room. Just remember that our quorum is 4.
Okay.
Or it's 5, so we can have no more than 4 people.
Thanks for the clarification, Commissioner. Any other question on meet and greet events? Given that there's no any other question on that area, we will move to Part B, which is final report. This is the report to the Iowa City Council. So I open the floor for discussions on this.
I believe this is Commissioner Dillard. Stephanie, you forwarded an email to us listing how detailed the final report needed to be. Is that correct?
Yes.
Could you just reiterate or explain what you said in the email to all of us, please, once more?
Well, basically, and I spoke with Jeff about this the day after your past meeting, but you have the final report from the facilitators, which would document your progress at least through March of 2024. So if you wanted to include the work that you've done since that time, you would really only be looking at May through December of 2024. And that the recommendations, it seems like from listening to the meetings that you're thinking that you need to, write a report that's like 100, 200 plus pages. And really, you just need to write what your recommendations are for the city council based upon, the work that you've done here for the last several years. So, something that's concise that lets the community know and lets the city council know, as a result of all the work that you've done, what you're suggesting or recommending. And
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, and you after today, there's only 5 meetings, and that's assuming you meet twice in November and twice in December. And I'm not sure how the meeting dates fall in terms of breaks and holidays and celebrations that people may have in the month of November and December. So, I guess in my opinion, the most efficient use of your time is to meet somehow outside of meetings. Of course, be mindful of the quorum, and you don't have to meet in person. You can call each other, you can email, you can be on Zoom, but really trying to capture between members what you feel these recommendations should be. And you may not know all of them at this point in time, and I realize that, but I think meeting time should be spent kind of getting consensus on what different groups have suggested, versus trying to come up with them in a meeting. I just think that's it's doable, but it might be more efficient to try to meet, because there's 9 commissioners. You can meet in groups of 3, and just trying to kind of coordinate a list amongst one another.
Yes.
Thank you again, Stephanie. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that we as commissioners need to meet in that order, in that format suggested by the staff, in order to come out with an outline, a roadmap of what the report will look like. Even though we've got some advice from the city, I think we as commission also need to come with our own way in which we want to do it, what we think is sufficient, and based on what we have gathered or experienced in here. And we need to discuss that either in small groups, but I think that discussion requires an outline. So I'm really looking forward to coming up with an outline on what we've done from the time the commission was set up, and the experiences, the history a little bit. We do not want a situation where our recommendations are filed somewhere and only looked at, but we want it to be part of history. At the moment, we have a lot of commissions going on around the U.S. Most of them are in the West Coast, like one of the members of the public indicated. Some are in the Northeast, and ours in here in the Midwest here. There are very few in the South, based on some figures that I've seen. So somebody is looking at what we are doing, and they might not even be here. They are very far, and they might want to learn something or just see what we are engaged in. So I think the commission, if the commission agrees, we will map out how best we can do that to satisfy the mandate and satisfy our abilities and the resource we have. So I don't know whether it is right now that we decide on the next meeting whether to come up with an outline in a full commission meeting, or we do this in groups. And that's a question I'm presenting to the commission for discussion.
Chastity's hands it up.
Yes, go ahead, Chastity. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Dillard, I really agree with just the idea of us finding ways to meet offline to discuss our views on what recommendations should be, whether that's if some commissioners would like to send out their recommendations for all of us to read, or commissioners get together in groups to meet and discuss things. I don't know if we really need to create an outline, but it would be good to understand what the viewpoints are before we dive into a big discussion in our last few meetings. So I think over the rest of this month, coming together either phone call, Zoom, in person, to discuss what we think needs to happen next. I think it'd be a great idea. I'll try to reach out to people, see who wants to get together. But I also would really love everyone's help in reaching out to each other as well. Having conversations with other commissioners is going to be important. So that's my viewpoint. Thank you.
And if anybody has questions or need assistance on, getting to this point, don't hesitate to reach out.
I also have a question on the third mandate of our charter, which is reconciliation. While in our discussion, deliberations, we have had some forms of reconciliation, interacting with other communities or hearing from them their concerns and their empathy for what we are working on. I believe we have not engaged very well on the issue of reconciliation. And even though we have just a few meetings to go, I was thinking, depending on what the commission thinks, that we make an attempt to reach different groups so that we make a headline, showcase that this is really a day for hearing or making an attempt to reconcile in a way from different communities that are engaged here in Iowa City. And I've had some questions from fellows that are non-minority, non-BIPOC people. They are willing to join if there is an effort of that nature. They tend to come from the faith community, and they have a lot of experiences with their members, which are usually mixed, and they might. I know one of them has been asking me, Commissioner Kiche, you talked about you being in a commission. When am I coming to discuss with you or talk with you? So this is a question I'm raising to the commission, to try to include all our communities, the local groups, action groups, Black Lives Matters, NWSCP, and ANCP, and other members who have been participating in the online. They are members that occasionally see are always there listening. It's an opportunity to invite them so that they can also talk. So, and that's a question that to me is very dear as part of the charter, that probably if we do not address the recommendations will be incomplete, because we also need to see how did we make an effort that help in some way. So I would want a discussion around that if possible.
Commissioner Dillard has her hand up.
Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Commissioner Dillard, again, I guess I'm trying to understand what you're wanting to do. So you're saying, Commissioner Kiche, that you don't believe that our efforts towards specifically reconciliation have been enough, and you believe for us to better those efforts, we need to meet more with people in the community to discuss what they want reconciliation to look like, or to perform reconciliation efforts between certain groups?
I would say yes. And not just to meet, we need to organize something. That was two different questions. Yes to what? Because I had two different things. Yes to... We have been meeting people and we have been hearing from them. We are continuing to meet them in the next two events. This is still a meet and greet. We have had some cases here. And I believe there are others that we have not met, but very, very important that we listen to them towards the end of what we are working on, and I think to me it's not sufficient.
Okay, I guess I'm curious what efforts do you think we haven't done to try to meet these? these the people that you're trying to say, or you want us to meet more with?
We can invite the other groups officially and engage as a group, maybe 2 commissioners or 3 engaging a set of groups of people, and we see what is their view about reconciliation. How do they want us to go over that? And are they willing to come to the table for all of us to discuss? That part, I believe, we've not done a good job, according to my evaluation.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm asking questions because I would disagree and say we've done an amazing job trying to engage with people in the community over the last almost 4 years, and we've done the best we can with the tools and resources that we do have. Of course, there's always efforts that can be done, we can do more of, but I would hesitate to say that we haven't tried in many ways to reach many different groups in this community.
Commissioner Mohammed's hand is
Yes, Commissioner Mohammed, go ahead.
Yes, I want to say something about what Commissioner Dira said. You know, I have been here in Iowa 13 years, since 2011. I have no idea about TRC. I never hear about it. And I heard like last 2 years or less about TRC, and I was wondering, you know, like what TRC. And Kevin Sanders with NAACP, he suggested for me to apply. I applied 2 years ago, but my application did not, you know, accept until this year. And it got to my attention. One of the TRC commission, she was from Sudan. And I started searching on like the TRC website, and I checked that she's from Sudan. And I noticed I know her mom. And I was surprised. She never involved with the Sudanese at all. Never. And as I asked people in the community, do you know TRC? They said no. Some people until now, they don't know what the TRC. Some people, they knew now after I became a commission, you know, trying like when we had that meeting with Commissioner Amos and that the issues about the job and this stuff, you know, I have to explain to these people what the TRC. Some people, they understand, some people, they don't know. Thank you.
I have a question for Commissioner Kiche. The group that would want to do something, what specifically would they want to happen?
Okay, this is what I'm thinking. We cannot decide for them what they want. We just have to meet with them and listen to them, what they want us to put in the report. I cannot say I want them to do A, B, or C, because I don't know. Every group out there have their own issues. We just saw the housing group here giving us a lot of ideas and pointers on what they think the city can help them with. This is if we can reach other groups like this, or we can just have access to any 2 or 3 through somebody who can easily talk to them or their leaders. That could help. But I cannot say that I want them to tell me about this or this or this. Yeah.
Invite them here?
Wherever we can agree with. It doesn't have to be here. This could be an event somewhere else. Remember, in our budget, we have an allocation, because that is something we were thinking about, the final event or something like that. It is in our budget. So the budget was there to guide us on what we were thinking, planning. And I was thinking it would be something that would look like something like that.
Commissioner Dillard has her hand
Yes,
up.
go ahead.
So I think I hear what everyone's saying. Of course, we can always do more. I hear what Commissioner Muhammad is saying. Some people, lots of people don't know what the TRC is, but I think it's wonderful that Commissioner Muhammad, you did know who we were 2 years ago, which means that we did do our job in some way. I think one of the recommendations I would put out there that our commission can put out there is that there needs to be more resources to spread the word. There needs to be people that can do this as a full-time job and get out there. The problem is that we are a volunteer commission who have full lives during the daytime that can't dedicate the amount of time that a true Truth and Reconciliation Commission needs to be able to be successful. So again, I'm going to say we did everything we could do to put our name out there with the little resources that we did have. And I think that if we do want to do another event, let's see how this Saturday and the October 20th event goes, because what you're talking about is getting people to come see us and to get people to fill the seats. And that's one of the challenges that we do have sometimes. So I don't want us to get ahead of ourselves when, as Stephanie said, we have 5 more meetings until December 31st when our commission is ending. And I believe it's true, as years have shown, that around the holidays, most of us are not going to be as available. So how much time do we have, and how much effort is everyone willing to put towards what you're talking about? I want people to think about that before we get ahead of ourselves. And yeah, let's discuss that part. Thank you.
Commissioner Lobner, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I want to say something to Commissioner Dillard. For TRC, that I was wondering, because one of the commission was from Sudan. That's what I was wondering, First time when I saw her name, I thought she's from Somalia. But I did dig on Google and I asked people, I found she's from Sudan. What surprised me, she never in her 4 years or whatever, she's not involved in the community. She's not zero, is a minus. I asked the people, about her. They said we don't know her. And no one is know about TRC. Is less than a zero. That's why I was wondering how she is from Sudan, TRC, and people, they don't know her, they don't know what is a TRC. She's not involved in a single thing for the Sudanese community issues. That's why I'm wondering, about that. Thank you.
Chastity, go ahead.
Oh, I don't have it raised anymore, sorry.
Okay.
Your hand is still up. To Commissioner Kiche again, can this particular group attend the meet and greets? What they have to say? Can it be said that on the October 5, but that one is very soon, it's like the day after tomorrow, on 20th. Can they be part of that? If they're invited.
I think that is possible.
So you would be able to send them the flyer that is already available.
The ones that I know of, I will be, but it's all our responsibility. Every commissioner, I believe, has some networks that are important for an event like this that they can extend to and seek and find out if it is possible that an event of this nature can include such important groups and organizations. We cannot force them to join, but since it is an already pre-planned place and time, it's just their willingness now. But it is, I don't know whether there will be adequate resources on this day, but that's a different question. So,
what are you thinking of in terms of resources?
I'm thinking of a room, maybe refreshments. But
The
I
shelter.
believe those are going to shelter. In the shelter house at the city park, yeah, you know, it's a different environment. It's not a building. Yeah, so some people might be having problems with an open area. What if the weather is really bad?
I haven't been to Shelter 12, but I don't know whether it's open or it's the one that's walled in. I mean, that can be confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if as the commission we want make this other meet and greet to include other issues, then we can outreach much more.
What do you mean other issues? We have a charge.
Yeah, we have a charge, but you see we are calling it event meet and greet, and I'm also talking about reconciliation. So is reconciliation going to be included part of that or not?
It is part of our work. If this particular group you're talking about, if they can bring that there.
If it's okay, this is Commissioner Dillard. Commissioner,
Go ahead, yes.
Keisha, are you saying that we would need to adjust the wording? Because I guess alongside, I think, with Commissioner Gatto, I feel like if everyone is welcome to these meet and greets, and they're welcome to discuss anything that has to do with our commission. So I don't know how it would be different, because reconciliation is a part of our work. I'm sorry if I'm misunderstanding what you're trying to get at. Could you help me understand?
I think WhatsApp meeting, the meet and greet is a concept that is recent. Actually, I didn't know it until I came in here because I've not been engaged on a lot of those events. Reconciliation is a word that I've known for a while. And I think if you are talking about reconciliation, somebody has a better idea. Meet and greet is very open. When it's reconciliation, I think they know what they are coming to. They're coming with the issues, with the recommendations they want. Meet and greet probably includes that too, but I think the words have power.
Okay, so you're just saying that because it's not specific enough? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that I did not envision the meet and greet events to probably encompass or include, to some good extent, reconciliation.
Maybe I'm understanding you wrong, Commissioner Kiche, but when I look at the invite again, where we have, this is a great opportunity to learn more about the commission and how you can support their efforts, because that's where you started, that this group would really want to support with a part of reconciliation, even after we've made recommendations. And when we make recommendations, they have some ideas. So that is why I'm asking, can they attend? In the interest of time, like we said, we only have November, December, and we are done. Can they attend that? What they have to offer, can it be offered at that place?
They can be offered, but remember we have a restriction on the number of commissioners. In a real reconciliation one, all the commissioners, if possible, it should be there. It's a public meeting. This one, only 4 or 5.
Yeah, but
so
then
it is designed to achieve certain elements that a reconciliation meeting probably would have achieved much more, and with a full open meeting, public meeting of all commission.
So,
I see that as a very significant difference.
So are you suggesting something like the truth telling, where all commissioners were there, something like that?
I believe that would help better.
Commissioner Kiche, this is
Go ahead.
Commissioner Dillard again.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I guess I'm a little confused because I thought we all agreed that we wanted to try these meet and greets to give people an opportunity to feel safe and not be out in the open or in a public setting. I would think that people that want to talk more about reconciliation would still want the same thing. If we made it a public meeting with all of us there, that would eliminate that safety. So I guess, yeah, that's my thoughts.
So this event would have the title of reconciliation?
I think that's a separate question.
I'm still trying to understand. And then, so is it ideas being offered, or is it a meeting of Iowa City community members? And I'm trying to understand, is it like, would it be like a circle? Or?
It doesn't have to look like a circle. It could take some element of that, but it's just an event, a gathering, a total gathering. I don't know the right way to call it, because I do not want to go in a reconciliation meeting where some commissioners cannot attend. Yet that is the charge that they were given to conduct, unless it's done in sequences. In one time, 4 commissioners hear the issues of reconciliation with other communities on a different group, and then another group of commissioners do that. That is also possible. But
so who would be gathering? This particular group and the 9 commissioners, and the community, or just the commissioners and this particular group?
For example, in one of these days, there will only be 4 commissioners, because it's not a public meeting.
No, I'm still on that other group that has something to offer on reconciliation. The meets and greets, I think those ones are sort of, if they're not able to do this, so would it be an event just for commissioners, 9 commissioners and this group, or commissioners, this group, and then Iowa City community members?
I think it's an event where all the commissioners, unless there's a good reason for them not to show up, are present, listening, taking all the voices, and it's an event where all different communities, non-BIPOC, are also invited. That's why the word reconciliation is there.
So what would be happening?
Which means we make an attempt to reach these other non-BIPOC communities, the BIPOC groups, and see if there's a day where we can gather somewhere, all of us, the commission, with all the Iowa City community, to talk something about reconciliation. I don't know how the nature that would look like. I've never been an event, but we cannot design that for them, but we can provide guidelines on probably what the panel looks like. Maybe we invite some presenters to talk on the issue of race and healing, social justice, equity issues, and see also what they think about that topic. That is what I would think reconciliation would look like. I will refer to I don't have the chart right now, but I think the charter probably describes different types of reconciliation that we can look into at a separate time. And if we agree that a reconciliation meeting is different from a meet and greet one. Although meet and greet can also provide reconciliation, but not fully.
So just, I have it in front of me, so let's see. The TRC, I mean, it gives several ways. It says create a replicable model that provides a structure for enabling these conversations, make available opportunities for a broad cross-section of the community to learn about discrimination and racial injustice, identify and recommend to the City Council institutional and policy reforms, new social practices, expectations, protocols, habits, rituals, conversations, and celebrations that will move Iowa City toward a shared experience of race and difference, justice and equity, and community and harmony. I'm literally skipping over some stuff, but you know, it have a specific, it gives a few specific examples of how you can do reconciliation, but then it kind of gives, you know, more suggestions that I guess are more in the spirit of identifying and recommending to the City Council. So I guess I read it as it could be done one or two ways.
Yeah, on that I want to add, reconciliation, it can stand on its own, and sometimes it has, as we've been working in the commission. But then it also runs through the work of the TRC, all the way from the very beginning, and even in its purpose. It is that's the end game, and even after we are done, the work of reconciliation is all the three pieces of it is not done. So it can't stand alone, like hearing Amos wanting, and it has stood alone sometimes, for example, when we were doing the various circles, but at the same time, it also runs through all the three pieces and through the process up to where we are today. And I guess some of that I'm repeating what Stephanie just read and how I've been understanding, and also from the other TRCs that are going on in the country and have gone on in the world, and task forces on racial injustice. And Lubna, your hand was up, or was it Chastity? Yeah.
I just put it down, but I was just going to say, yeah, I think that's where my confusion came, because I also saw the reconciliation part of our charge as the recommendations, and then what would happen after our commission's time has ended would be the reconciliation part afterwards. So that's the part that, yeah. So now I think I understand now.
But I'm still kind of hearing Commissioner Kiche wanting a standalone reconciliation with this event, with this particular group, and with more than 4 commissioners, which makes it totally a meeting when everyone is there.
If I can make a suggestion, since it is getting late, we can definitely talk about how that can look, and maybe present that at our next meeting, and if it's even possible. Again, time is ticking, so we can talk and see what is possible, and see if we can, get the ball rolling if everyone's in agreement. But I don't think we're going to be able to make any decisions tonight.
I'm assuming we are on 7B. Are we there on the agenda?
Yes, we are on B. Yeah, so, yeah, like Commissioner Chastity just suggested, we can postpone that issue to another time. If there's no objection, we'll move to presentation to City Council, which...
Oh, before we do that, I just wanted to say, because on the final report, we said we shall work on that. Between our last meeting and this meeting, I did look at what Commissioner Liu has, and also having looked at the other TRCs that have gone on and are going on in the country and outside the country, and task forces, our report, I'm not thinking of 200 pages, but probably between 20 pages and 50 pages, or at least looking at that, and to sort of capture and summarize what we have been doing and context, and then putting those recommendations. And during our last meeting, it was suggested whether people could could suggest somebody, and since funds are available, somebody for us to have somebody who could do the report for us. That's what I was ruminating on and thinking about for as we move forward with this.
So if I understand you well, Commissioner, you are talking about the final report in the form of preparation and writing, and who is going to do that. And I believe, based on my engagement with you, we talked to somebody. And it's a good time to, if you could mention that issue, that we found somebody that can help us, excuse me, with the report writing. Somebody that we believe, unless we have other persons already online. I know earlier on we have had a discussion on some persons from the university also helping, but I don't have full information about how ready they are and their willingness at the moment. So it's a good time to discuss that. Can we engage this person, get interviewed, maybe with the staff, on whether the person is appropriate and can start helping us?
On a report that follows a template of other TRCs, because we are a TRC.
So, Commissioner Wangui, can you talk about the person that we had engagement with?
Or in the interest of time, do we say as we had, do we continue as we had decided to wait for the next meeting?
What is the opinion of other commission members on the report writing?
I think that we can talk about this next time and in between our meeting.
Okay. The next agenda, if that is not possible right now, is also about presentation to City Council, and that's very much related to the report. You won't present if you don't have the report. So if we suspend the discussion on that, on agenda 7 part B, then that means we are also suspending discussion on presentation to City Council, unless somebody, a commissioner, has a different view. What is entailed on the agenda of presentation to City Council? Is this the question of the date and the time?
We can discuss that next time.
Okay.
You're saying the date and the time to present to City Council?
Yeah, because there's a part.
Yeah, I mean, I followed up with the city manager, and the commission, even though the ending is the end of December 31st, 2024, even though the commission technically expires at that time, you can present the report to City Council or do your presentation to City Council after that time. In terms of the date and time, that would be something that would be determined by the City Council, not the TRC.
Thank you, staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So they will let us know when they expect the report.
Well, I think, once you have decided that you have a presentation, then I think at that time, that you would alert the the council that you would like to get on a work session agenda?
So what I'm hearing, fellow commissioners, is for us, as we discuss our final report, thinking about the time it would take us to estimate the time it would take us to get done with the final report. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I thought at the last meeting it was decided that the report would be done by that December 31st, 2024 date, and that the only thing that you were asking to carry over after that point would be the presentation to City Council. That was my understanding after the last meeting.
That is what we said.
So I'm hearing we have 2.5 months to do the report, in addition to the meet and greets. And maybe an event that Commissioner Kiche is talking about.
Correct.
Yes.
As things stand today, that would be correct.
Yeah. And because of that, that's why I was suggesting we get somebody whose work is writing up reports to lead us in, if it is possible. But then, we said we talk about that during our next meeting.
Yes, we will talk about that as part of the final report discussions, yes. Okay, if there is no objection, we'll move to part D, which is documentary. If we have some information about the update on this, then the commission would like to hear that.
No updates. We can move on.
Okay. Any other issue regarding actions for phases 3 and 4 that we have not discussed that is pertinent to agenda number 7? Anybody from the public? Yes, go ahead.
Nothing. Sorry.
Any person from the public would want to address the questions of meet and greet? That's the only thing that we have probably talked much about today. The other three other components we'll discuss next week. Not next week, next time. If there is nobody from the public, I'll call for announcements of commissioners. Agenda number 8. Announcements from commissioners. I'll start by indicating that I attended and I tabled an event last Saturday. Iowa City, Piedmont, Iowa. That was an African festival of arts and culture, and it was a very good event. A lot of people were there. The mayor was there. I saw other council members were also there. They spent a lot of time at the festival, and that was very, very positive to me as a commission member. They were buying food, they were buying clothes, wearing all kinds of African clothes, and that was very interesting. And it was tabled between me and Commissioner Wangui, who were both there in the event. And I don't know if Commissioner Wangui might want to add.
It was exciting, people having their names on our contact list. How many people did we get? 19? No, it's announcement, so yeah.
Yeah, we had 6 volunteers and 13 males who were BIPOC. Those are people we had contacts with. Then we had 23 females, so it was like a total of 36 total contacts that we had on our table. There were 3 persons from non-BIPOC community, and so of all our events, this is the one where we have had the highest contact as yet. But we we can have more in the next few events coming in the meets and greets, if possible. Yeah.
And it was exciting to just hear people getting excited about knowing about the existence of TRC and being excited about our swag and the information that we had. The people took it and T-shirts and what we had on the table. It was great interacting with the community.
Another, if Commissioner Wangui, you're done. Another event that I attended was a webinar with the University of Duke. They have a center for, let me see, it's a center for human rights, gender, and social justice. And they are working on a project where they are doing a study on all the TRC commissions around the continent, not around in the US. And they showed to me that most of the events of this nature are happening in the West Coast, part of Middle North. The map showed that there were not much, maybe none, in the South, and that's something that really worried them. But so far, they are engaged with the administrators, commissioners who are engaged in commissions like ours in here. And they are doing a study that for which I was part of the focus group, in which they are looking at reparations and how best to conduct reparations once they come up with recommendations. Yeah, they are having difficulty coming with the theory. Very much much of the center is much led by economists, but there are other persons too. So it was very interesting that they are still having trouble on the best way, a lot of disagreement on the methodology, how to do reparations. But the center has just been inaugurated not too long ago by the University of Duke. And they have a full-fledged professor working on issues of race, inauguration, reparations, and related issues. And that was a very interesting webinar. They were saying that those who have not filled in the survey, I think the survey was sent to other commissioners too, they would want to hear from you, your views, so that issues of race relations, social injustices, reparations, and so on are done in the right format in which they are well studied academically. Universities should have tenured professors working in those areas, not just departments. They were thinking that serious scholarly work should be recommended and done by universities, in which professors and students and other scholars interact and train people in the field on how best to talk about these issues so that they are not pushed aside by politics. That was a very positive thing that I learned from the focus group. Any other announcement from the Commission? If there is no any other announcement, I would entertain announcements from staff.
I would just say if folks have agenda items, if the chair consents or approves, if you could send them to Chastity and me so that it's clear what goes on the agenda and what doesn't, or how it's phrased and stuff, that would be helpful. But Chastity, are you okay with that? Or Commissioner Dillard?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then, gosh, so I guess, so the two of you have, and I know we're not going to get into a discussion, but if you have met with somebody who you thought could write a report for the TRC, if you could send that information to me or what you have so that I can disseminate it to the entire commission so that your next meeting, to make the most efficient use of time, so that people have the information that they can look through and think about and come up with questions. And also, because you would have to move pretty quick on that. So just if whatever information you have, that would be helpful to get to me so I can get it out to everybody so everybody has the same information. But that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you very much, staff. We are, any motion for, we're going for adjournment, any motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.